So this is the start of my project. I bought all these off eBay. They're basically ashtrays and brass dishes. And I wanted quite a big padlock. So this is the biggest dish. So this is the one I'm going to use for the front of the padlock. And then this one's going to be the back of the padlock. But this one's got a bit of a dome in it. So once I've cut the shape out, I'm going to have to flatten that down. So basically, all I'm looking at is a square padlock. So it's going to go sort of like that, as much as I can get out of it. And then I'm going to have two bits on there, like so. That's going across there, and that's going to be the keyway. So in a nutshell, it's going to be pretty simple to do. I just need to cut that shape out of that for the front, and then I need to duplicate that on this one, but obviously flatten that out a bit, and then I'll have the front and the back of the padlock. So work's begun. That's going to be basically the rough size of the padlock. And this plate's a bit on the thin side, so I've got an old shovel out of a companion set, and I'm going to use that. So I should be able to get a plate out of that. So that's what we're going to do next. As you can see, I'm a bit of a messy worker, but these are basically the plates that I'm going to use. Now this one is a lot thicker. This was the one that was made out of the shovel. That was the top part of the shovel. So I'm going to use that for the back plate. And this one's a little bit thinner, so that'll be okay for the front plate. And what I'm going to use for the insides is I've got an old Squire 440, and all the body was battered. So I'm going to use the bolt and the levers out of a Squire 440. So what I'm going to use here for the pins, I've marked out where I'm going to drill them, because that was off the old back plate of the Squire. And what I'm going to use are these bolts. And basically, I'm going to tap and drill these holes, screw the bolts in till they're down to the bottom of the thread, and then just cut off at the required length. And then I'll be able to put that sliding bolt in, and I'll be able to put the 4 levers in out of the old Squire 440. I've put those studs in. Now that bolt moves across nicely. I've drilled an hole there for another stud, which is where the springs for the lever will go. And for the outer, I'm going to use these. These are the square shafts what go through your door handles. But the only problem is, because this brass wasn't quite wide enough, it would have been better if it was a wider lock. But I'll get round it. Obviously, it goes quite close to the edge. So when I put these inside there and rivet them in, it won't fully go across. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to cut a section out of these bars. So basically, I'm just going to put a bar going down there, one at the bottom, and then one going up at the side. So I need to cut 2 sections out this side and that side, so that bolt moves freely across. I've got the levers and the bolt back in. Needs a bit of fine tuning, but it does actually work. That's a key for it. I've drilled an hole for the key to go through. If I just put my finger on there so they don't flip out, you can see it's all working. So the next stage is to cut those square bars, like I say, to fit round the outer. I've cut that brass bar up, and I've managed to put 2 little cutaways inside, so the bolt will move across now. Just show you that. The bolt will fully go across, and the same when you're locking it back up. All the levers drop back down. I'm going to try to make a shackle out of brass, but this is the shackle out of the 440, and obviously it fits in there nicely. I may use it if I can't get round to making a shackle out of brass. I'd like to, but just show you that working. That will drop down, and when you lock it back up, it'll be fine. So obviously all this will be filed around the edge. It'll be a lot smoother. I've put some of those rivets in that you just hammer in. I've used them in the past. When I put the front on, I'll show you what rivets I use. And I've cut the studs down a bit, but obviously they still need filing down, and obviously the studs need cutting off at the correct height. So now I'm working on the shackle. This is the shackle off the original Squire 440, and I found a socket which was roughly the right size to wrap round. And what I did was I got some of these brass bars, which was off that companion set. These was the tongs off it. That's the other one. And then basically what I did was I just heated this up in the middle, got a pair of mole grips either side of the bar, and I put the bar on top of the socket and just pulled it, and I got the bend, which is that bit there. So that's the bend now, which is going to be for my brass shackle. Again, just out of scrap brass, and it's pretty close to the original shackle. So all I've got to do is file a little flat spot there, drill an hole into that, and then just file the end flat there, and just make something pretty similar to the original shackle, but only out of a bit of scrap brass. So I've managed to make a brass shackle out of that bar, out of that companion set. It does actually work. It's locked up now. Let's just put my finger on there because these springs will flip out. Bolt slides across, opens up, and locks back up again. So the next job is to put the front cover on, really, but this cover doesn't fit properly in the sense that the levers are higher than this square bar what I put around the edge. Wasn't quite high enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this plate up again, some off the door. I'm going to put it all around the edge on the inside of here, just a thin piece all the way around the edge, and then when I put the cover on, it will raise it just enough so it doesn't stick on the levers. So again, it's scrap brass. So the front plate now has been raised a little bit. I've put that bit of a brass strip around the edge. When it's all fold down, you won't really know, it will blend in, but it's made it a lot stronger, and it now raises it, so when you put it on top of there, it now sits flush and it doesn't touch the levers. So all I need to do now is drill all the way around the edge and hammer those rivets in. Those rivets, what I was talking about earlier, are these. They're just little tiny rivets, and basically you drill holes, make sure the hole's nice and tight, and you just hammer these in, and they're quite strong. They're really hard to get out, to be honest. I've tried removing them in the past and they're not bad. Obviously this is nothing to do with security, this is just a bit of fun. So what I did is I put a bit of solder around there. It's only rough, and it's just to keep it in place, because once I drill the holes and rivet this through both layers into here, then obviously it's not going to come off anyway. So it's almost complete, and I put a little bit of bar on the top of there. Obviously you could get wire down to open it. Like I say, it's just a bit of fun. It's certainly not going to be secure. You could easily pick this just by putting something down the edge of there. There's loads of gaps. It's not brilliant, but it's a bit of fun. So hopefully the next section of the video will be this, all riveted on and with the key working. I have put the keyway in there, and the key does fit in. I'm just hoping that when it's all together it works, and we'll soon find out. So that's it, it's finished. It's a bit tight, but it does actually work. And yeah, considering it's made out of scrap bits and pieces, it's not turned out too bad. So let's see what it picks like. I'll stick her in the vise. Use a bent nail tension tool. And I'll use this little bit of 1.4mm piano wire. All right, let's see if we can get into this then. Let's see if it picks any better than the old Squire 440s, because that's basically what's inside. But only the studs are out of bolts rather than being properly machined. A little bit of movement then. It's a little bit tight in there. I'm sure it'll wear down a bit once it's been opened and closed a few times. But I've only just put this together. I can normally open these Squire 440s quite quick. We've got quite a lot of movement then. So I've got to be close. Got some more movement. Like I said, they're normally pretty easy to pick. I think it's just because everything's tight in there. Must be close though, because everything feels set. Got some more movement, but it's still no open. Yeah, we get the open. So God, that took longer than it normally does. It is open, it's just that I need to flick the wire across, flick the bolt across I should say. There you go, it's open. So yeah, not bad considering it's the first lock I've ever made. And I hope you found this video helpful. And if you've got some spare time and some bits of scrap material, then have a go at making one. Really fun. Anyway, that's it for now. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Try it a bit.